Hey everyone, welcome to From the Hip. I'm Johnny, joining each week as I broadcast from Starla, the HWP World Hemp Bus, and we explore the amazing potential of hemp and our shared world, one guest, one adventure, one story at a time. This week's episode comes from Texas HempstaLK, a candid conversation between Texas State Representative Gene Wu and hemp activist Karen Reeves.
There's 10,000 stores in Texas.
Wow, yeah.
Right? Around there.
The hemp. So look,
They wouldn't exist if people didn't use it.
So before we can start our conversation, let's specify what we're talking about.
Hemp-based.
Stores are hemp-based,
Based.
THC products, and then the other thing that we'll talk about maybe in a few minutes will be the teacup.
Sure.
It is confusing for the public because unfortunately so many people think it's the same thing.
Yeah.
So you're talking about how many stores we have in Texas?
Yeah, I think because
Excuse me. I'm not an expert or professional, so I don't know all those facts, and it's kind of new news to me. So I appreciate you sharing.
I only
that.
know the rough numbers.
Yeah.
So we're looking at about 50,000 employees,
Wow.
right? And the exact number of stores it's not precise because some stores are like combination stores.
Right.
And how do you want to count those? Some stores only sell. Right, some stores only sell like 2 or 3 products. Do you want to count them or not?
Yeah.
So
It's been very confusing for the public. When our teacup bill passed, and people heard that we had medical cannabis. They just assumed that was what happened when the hemp bill passed. They just thought that was just an extension of that. So everybody across the state kind of just started buying the hemp products, and unfortunately, there have been many arrests because of that. Still, I like to caution people: cannabis is not legal in Texas. You're still going to get arrested if you get pulled over. So I like to know how we try to make it more safe for people that do have to travel with their medicine and things like that.
well, I mean, and that's
the hemp products. What about the penalties?
no, I mean the penalties are over the top, and
That's confusing to me, and to make it more. It's a crime to have a hemp flower than a cannabis flower,
Yep.
and
because they need it to be punitive. They want it to be punitive because they want to push. It needs to sound scary, so
right.
people won't.
But for the record, I've been a cannabis consumer for almost 50 years. Well, 51.
Sure.
But so I started when I was 13, and not one has any of the laws made me not want to use cannabis. And so it's very risky in that fashion too, and I have to do that to be secure in my medicine.
And I think that's a conversation that we should have with all Americans. Is if this is something that your neighbors, your family members may want, may need, why do we criminalize it? Why do we tell people they can't have something just because?
Yeah.
Right? What is the danger? What is the problem we're trying to solve?
And when I became a cannabis activist, I had no realization to the fact that our legislators do favors in return for favors, and that bills were held back in return for other things. And that's like called bribery or immoral and not ethical behavior. And then here we come as candidates that we're pouring our truth out. Like we're open.
Yeah.
We're not hiding anything back. It's scary for some people that can't even share their story.
Yeah.
You know?
I think if people really knew how legislative bodies work, they would follow it.
And yeah, I've spent many days after each session. I have PTSD from how the medical society has treated me the last 30 years. Stigmatizing me because I was cannabis consumer. Every illness I had was because of my cannabis use, which is not true.
Right.
And so when people come forward, and admit they use cannabis, it's difficult.
Yes.
So I've kind of always been interested in public policy and in like the law, how everything works, just from being a nerd. Sort of the question that always pops in my mind is, if I don't do it, who's going to do it? I have a particular interest and a skill in dealing with public policy, working these things. I have a master's in public policy. I have a law degree. I love this stuff. I love public policy. I love the idea of being able to use government to change people's lives, to make our society better, to make everyone's lives better, to improve our future. That's all I want. The fight for legalization, the fight for hemp, is the same thing. It's just like, look, this makes people happy. This helps people who are sick. This helps people who are hurt. feel less sick and less hurt. So that's a fantastic thing, right? It doesn't hurt anyone else. It doesn't cost a whole lot of money. People don't have to go bankrupt doing it. And at the end of the day, it lets Americans have more freedom. Just as a public policy nerd, I would say, how can you not support this, right? Because it's every positive with basically no negative, right? People can talk about abuse and all this stuff, but please, let's talk about tobacco. Let's talk about opioids. Let's talk about alcohol. Talk about all those negatives. And, and I think we have an alternative here that provides people with better relief, has fewer side effects, and is cheaper. And it's just a better product. Why wouldn't we want that? And that's sort of the frustration, is that as we're going along this fight, we have logic, reason, the scientific data, the medical data to say that the truth and righteousness should be on our side. But yet sometimes we're not winning these fights. And I think what we need to do is sometimes maybe not just take our fight to the legislature, but take our fight to the community itself. Because what we need to do is have more people who are willing to join into the community and become a part of this arena and saying, hey, I'm just a regular person, but I use hemp-based THC for my back pain, or because I can't sleep, or because my heartburn's really bad, or because I have a lot of anxiety, whatever it is. Or you just want to have a relaxed weekend. We need people to be willing to step forward and say, look, I'm a normal person. This is a normal part of my life. There should be nothing wrong with it. Let's normalize this. Why do we talk about how much people love beer and alcohol? But if they say, well, I take a gummy, suddenly everyone gasps, right? It shouldn't be like that. That's silliness. We're acting like children. And that's the irony, is look, we just dealt with a bill that is going to ban THC and recriminalize it for all Texans. Many of the legislators, I promise you, many of the legislators who voted for the ban use hemp-based THC on a regular basis, right? And that is really the hypocrisy of politics, of the government. They probably won't publicly admit that they use, just like many people won't. But I think what we can do is help more people talk about this, and talk about this as, hey, this is a normal way to deal with things. You take aspirin, you take a little THC, you take Tylenol, you take some Pepto for your stomach issues. However you want to treat yourself, we should normalize saying, I take care of myself this way, and it should be not only normal, but the government shouldn't be up my business about it. Period. Right? We can regulate quality, quantity, manufacturing process. We can ensure purity. We can make sure the stuff is tested and tested correctly. But at the end of the day, I don't know how we came from, let's be honest, a Republican Party that used to say we believe in small government. We believe that what adults do, what consenting adults do at home, is none of the government's goddamn business. What happened to that? Right?
Isn't that our God-given right? I'm a libertarian, and I started going to conventions and learning about that process, and I've never really realized platforms, and I'm not political, but I've been in shock and disillusioned, and basically it's caused a lot of heartache and pain in my life, even though I'm not political. Yeah. I hate to choose sides, and I try to be compassionate with both sides, and I feel like if we had more education in school about learning to bring these parties together in one goal, the goal of happiness under God.
No, you're absolutely right. And even beyond hemp, I want communities of different interests, whether you care about hemp, whether you care about immigrant rights, whether you care about making sure that people earn a living wage, whether you care about having a healthcare system that doesn't try to kill us every single day, right? Definitely. All those communities, I want them to rise up. I want them, the people, everyday people who care about this stuff, that this is important to them, to start speaking up, to start organizing, and start getting together. And if you're pissed off that your legislators, the people you elect, the people who are supposed to be representing you, the people who promised you one thing and did another.
Yeah, and the reality
Right.
of it
Deal with it.
is that everybody in these different groups are so different and diverse.
Yes.
All have hemp and cannabis. Should they use it? Do they need to use it? Are they using it? And every single one of those individuals, even though they may support a radical group, they still are questioning their use. And like for me, when I used cannabis for so many years, I thought I was a bad person. And it developed my brain into negative thinking, and that's not good for our youth.
Yeah, no, and I think if there's one like sort of unifying message we could all take back to our officials is you guys need to start doing the things that we're asking for. Not the stuff that your donors are asking for or what the billionaires are asking for, but the stuff that we're asking for, the people that put you in office, right?
I've had so many nights after coming home to testify and being so upset, I can't sleep. And I've given my heart, my soul, and I think the first question: how do these people sleep at night?
Yes.
Are they sick? Or they have mental illness? Are they, insomniacs? Or how are they with the Lord?
Yeah.
And it bothers me because I feel compassion for them and like empathy. I feel bad for them, and why aren't they feeling that for me?
And I'll say this. I'll say this till I turn blue in the face. If you think that your elected officials are hypocrites and liars, then get rid of them. If they told you one thing to your face and did something completely different when your back was turned.
Yeah, and the weird thing is, I've seen is people will be bad talking their representative or senator, and then go vote for them.
Exactly.
What the hell is going on?
And not only do I want people to not vote for them, I want y'all to run against them. Instead of saying we're going to be the morally superior third party, that you can have purity of thought and ideas, but never win. I would say instead of doing that, join one of the other sides, right? Take it over. And if nothing else, here's the thing. If nothing else, if you run, even if you don't win, but you scare them, you force them to change their views, change their policies towards your side, you still have won. Because you forced them to change their views.
That's one reason I started the CenTex community outreach group, is I wanted to have the more community action like you were talking about, and help empower and encourage others to get involved. And it's like when I went to my first rally in 2013, I thought, well, there's, a couple hundred people, we're marching up to the Capitol, but we did it on a Saturday. There's nobody up there, nobody really cares or paying attention. And then my son was arrested in 2014, and I was totally learning the statistics. 70,000 were arrested that year, and my son was unjustly arrested. And we went to the rally the next year, and I said, where's the 70,000 mamas up here that weren't just as heartbroken and disappointed this happened to their child or loved one?
Yes.
And so another reason why I said, since this community outreach, no one belongs in jail for a plant. We're going to keep fighting to end prohibition in Texas because it's just wrong, it's unfair, and it's unjust.
Yeah.
I think the powers that be that created this earth would just be, heartbroken as well as all of us.
Yeah, and I'll tell you. I'll tell you like one more thing. Especially you're in a conservative area. You're in a rural area, right?
It's just south of Waco.
Yeah, just south of Waco. And the problem is for a lot of people, especially in a community like that, they get swindled and lied to, and they're told that what's important to you is like, we got to do something about the trans kids. You got to do something about banning books. You got to do something. How does that affect anyone?
Yeah.
Like, I bet you those people.
Small majority of people, and then the big issues there.
But the problem is, every time that we break off, you tell the community members, every time you break off and focus on one of those issues, and you spend all your time doing those, they can hand you those victories very easily. Because they say, we can go beat up on all these other people who are not in power, who have no voice. We can beat them up for you and show you. That's easy. But the things that you actually want, Where are my wages?
Mhm.
Why is my insurance doubled? Right? Why is my rent going up? All those things that people actually care about and affect your life, they don't actually have voice.
And Representative Wu, I want to thank you for speaking up on the House floor. I spent all day listening to everybody, and I was getting so depressed and unhappy, and I suffer from depression. It
Yep.
really hurt me. But when you spoke, oh my God, I felt joy and hope. I was like, hell yeah. Somebody said, this bill is insane. My son said, is that you talking to him? Because I said the same thing. Yes, yes, yes. I got goosebumps saying
This is 2025.
We were feeling it. It didn't. No.
I mean, we
In
mocked.
a second. It's like they did
Yeah.
the vote so quickly. I got up to the bathroom because I was so pumped up and came back in, and I had to replay the live video. What the happened?
Yeah.
And I feel like crying right now. It's just really for the people. I'm tired of hearing the suffering and dying of people that could use cannabis and have a better quality of life. Help me the last 5 decades, like
And-
we say for cannabis,
And no matter what happens, now governor has not signed the bill yet.
for SB3.
SB3, right? There actually has not even left the legislature yet because they're still haggling over the House and Senate differences. And what I tell people is, do not lose heart. Keep fighting. They're counting on you giving up.
Exactly.
They're doing this in the most punishing, most rude way possible to discourage you because they saw 800 people register to testify in person.
And
Right.
SB3.
And they dragged that hearing out so that, like half the people left, and still like 400 something people testified.
That was
Right.
insane. And then so HB 46, when we tried to show up for the House hearing, we had a few people that showed up that had been loyal to go and show up. And then for the Senate hearing, 5 people showed up, 2 against, the owner of Goodwin, the lawyer for the DPS department, and me. And if I almost didn't show up because I was planning on coming here,
Yep.
and I had to choose. I want to use my finances for that or come here, and blessings happened, and I was able to do both. But if I wouldn't have showed up for there and I would have watched it on TV, I would have done.
On all of that, don't give up. Public support really, really matters, right? And it's not just public support during the legislative session. We need public support at home, in the community, all the time. People need to be talking about it. We need to be organizing our neighbors and our friends, and just talk to people. People all around you use. There's like 10,000 stores around the state. There's like 50,000 people who work in this industry in the state. We should be talking to everyone because you can't support that many stores and employees unless a lot of people use.
So,
Right.
so that's part of what our group helps to empower and encourage people to do things on the off time, because
Yep.
sometimes when you have your testimony and your thoughts controlled and it down to you might practice it and help people write, you need to try to take a lot of the emotion out of your story, which is really, really hard. But you have to get your point across, and it's important that you have time to decompress and say it over again. And then you have to be willing to share, because once you share, it changes you. And I want to, it empowers you. No longer a victim. You're someone that's empowered yourself. Speak the truth. Come forward. Let's tell it. Keep telling it.
Together.
Yep.
Yes, definitely. Unity, community outreach in your neighborhood. Start it. Start
Yeah.
now.
And that goes back to what I talked about at the beginning
That's
is
very
we need
cool.
to make more people comfortable about speaking about this publicly, talking about it in normal life, and saying
At your churches,
this is just
at
a
your
normal
library.
part of everyone's life. Like hemp-based THC is legal federally, so it's legal nationwide, except in Texas.
Yeah, and I just
Right? We should talk about that.
It's
Absolutely.
all of us.
Yeah.
Thanks, Karen.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate you guys so much. Yeah. Thank you, Representative Wu. You're
Absolutely.
so
It's
amazing.
Gene.
Oh, Gene.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Be sure to subscribe so you can catch next week's episode from the hip.